Hello, hello! Brewmaster Monk has been at the top of the charts so far, and it's still looking strong. It will matter what type of encounters we will have in the future, but as far as this kit is concerned at the moment, it's looking good. I'll go over a few details, strengths and weaknesses, and tell you if you should play Brewmaster in patch 8.1. That's not efficient on the Stagger! Shut up, bitch! Monk. The class that came with the race that shook WoW fans into trigger mode since 2012. I know, it actually shook me too. Especially the tank fantasy. How can a stick-wielding drunk be able to take on a dragon and demon, have them hit your face and not get squashed? Warcraft for the longest time meant savage orcs, taurens and trolls battling proud humans, dwarfs and night elves and what's a gnome? I could talk about class fantasy all day, but I'm a turbo nerd, and you might not be. So let's be a bit more technical together and check out the tools the Brewmaster has. Tools that make him what he is. When people talk about tanks, they usually refer to shield-wielding big boys. That's an easy concept to understand. Keep a hunk of metal between you and what is hitting you, and you'll be okay. Monks are different though, clearly. What sets monks apart and give them an interesting niche is the stagger mechanic. We mentioned the fantasy of being able to take on a dragon claw to the face and survive. Well, the stagger mechanic actually makes Brewmasters the best at taking single, super strong hitting hits to the face and stagger them. Did I say that wrong? English, not my first language, yes? The easiest way to explain stagger is with some numbers, so here we go. Also, people who care very much about things. This is hypothetical, just for the sake of explanation. My current stagger, which is based on agility, is let's say 60%. How does that matter, you say? Well, if a boss, let's say, wants to do 100 damage to me, the damage will work like this. 40 damage will go through instantly, meaning my HP will lose 40 points. The rest of the 60 points will be staggered, meaning they will transform into a 10-second dot and deal it that way. That means like 6 damage per second goes to my face? Now I also have Iron Skin Brew, which increases my stagger strength to let's say 85% when I chug one brewski. So now the boss does 15 damage to my face directly and 85 over 10 seconds. Now you're probably thinking that I still end up taking the full amount of damage, so which part of this is actual tanking? Well, I have another brewski called Purifying Brew that instantly deletes 50% of the remaining stagger. So if there were no GCDs in the game and I press Purifying the second the boss hits me, then the 85 damage gets cut in half to, say, 42.5 or 43 damage. Of course, I can purify again and cut another 50% of the remaining 43 damage, deleting, say, 22 points. So each subsequent purifying brew is less effective. This is how stagger works, and the reason why Brewmasters are good raid tanks, as you might imagine, is that they smooth out the damage they take. This way, healers don't get anxiety attacks from HP spikes. Now, of course, there are more factors to the tanking aspect. We have armor that reduces incoming damage. We also have our mastery, elusive brawler, that gives us dodge chances. Also, stagger is less effective versus magic attacks to bring monks in line with all the other tanks as well. Now that we shed some light on stagger, let's check the brew mechanic. As a brewmaster, you have brews. I understand if this concept might be difficult for some people to understand. We talked about Iron Skin Brew and Purifying Brew. They actually share charges with each other and you have 3 in total, which adds an element of management and decision to your rotation that makes Brewmasters one of the most interesting tanks to play. We also have Fortifying Brew, a super cooldown of 7 minutes. It gives you a boost of 20% HP, increases your stagger by 10%, and reduces the damage you take by 20%. All of this for 15 seconds. Yes, super cooldown. You did notice the 7-minute cooldown on it correctly, and this brings us to our next aspect of the brew system. We have Tiger Palm, a quick small attack that reduces the cooldown on all of our brews by 1 second, and Keg Smash, a range AoE damage spell that reduces the cooldown by 4. Keg Smash is also our main ability, so keep that in mind. So yeah, the spec is very interconnected, where your rotation basically means consuming your brews and hitting people to recover the cooldown. Going back to Keg Smash, you essentially throw a keg on the ground, dealing damage and slowing your enemies, applying a little debuff to them. Another skill we have, which old boys might remember from Warcraft 3, is Fire Breath, where we breathe fire in a cone and damage people, and if they have the debuff from Keg Smash, they take additional fire damage. Interesting mechanic, reminds me of that one time when I saw this done at a circus event. Our mastery is Elusive Brawler. Whenever we are hit by a melee attack, or we hit back with a blackout strike, we get a stack that increases our dodge chance. This stacks up until we actually dodge, after which it resets. Another defensive passive we have is Celestial Fortune. Whenever we are healed, we have a chance equal to our crit chance to be healed for an additional amount. With all of these stacks, it might not be straightforward to tell exactly how good you are at tanking or how good the Brewmaster is as a tank, which is probably why Brewmasters might not be the most popular tank. Now that we checked some of the mechanics that Brewmasters has, and trust me, we could probably talk about our toolkit for hours and hours to explain how everything works, but that would probably be boring. Instead, let's glimpse a bit on the strengths and weaknesses of the Brewmaster. Well, I just mentioned the toolkit. Brewmasters are very versatile. On top of solid mobility, we have a poison and disease dispel, which we all know is super handy in BFA in dungeons such as Ataldazar. We have one of the best CCs in the game. Paralyze is like a pseudo-blind polymorph kind of thing, while Ring of Peace essentially turns you into a game developer where you create impassable terrain knocking enemies away. You can use this in creative ways in dungeons and raids. Of course, let's not forget about Leg Sweep, the AoE stun. All of these tools add up to give us a really good kite capability as a tank, which helps us a lot in certain encounters. Our Stagger is also one of our best features. Being able to smooth out incoming damage makes our required healing very predictable. This in turn helps your healer out, since they can plan ahead and adapt to healing your group members. We also have a bit of self-healing with Gift of the Ox that functions when we take damage by summoning a heal sphere. We can also grab that sphere to instantly heal us or walk over it for the same effect. But even with the self-healing, we are very reliant on our group, and this brings us to our weaknesses, which aren't many. Actually, you can argue we have the one. We are reliant on our group to help us with the content. Our self-healing is not enough to keep us alive, and our damage is rarely enough to kill whatever it is we need to kill. Soloing content, world quests, and such are a chore to do with Brewmaster, especially if your gear isn't out-leveling the zone by a large margin. Although doable, you will probably have more luck switching to Windwalker, maybe even Mistweaver. Should you play Brewmaster in 8.1? Oh yeah, go for it! Brewmaster is able to do all the content and is one if not the best raid tank currently. You have a lot of stuff to deal with the mechanics, and I haven't seen a group declining a Brewmaster yet, unless it's for Mythic Plus with a blood decay applying, but hey, there's no chance of beating that, so don't stress too much about it. Brewmaster is a lot less punishing than Protection Warrior, even if it takes a while to wrap your hand around all of these passives. The talent system is nice. We have a few options here and there to take depending on the content, but some simply outperform others, as with most classes, while specific talents like Blackout Combo, which I personally enjoy, can only realistically be used if you are outgearing the content and you need that extra damage. In terms of stats, the Brewmaster scales pretty well. Main stat is agility, and thank God for that. Always go for the max high level. Other than that, I really recommend Brewmaster to you guys. It's a very fun and engaging spec. It rewards smart play, and you can assist your allies in so many ways that I am personally jealous I cannot see this for other classes as well. Also, if you want some Brewmaster resources, check the Peak of Serenity Discord channel where the boys are always up to date with the happenings of monks. What are your thoughts on Brewmaster and tanks in general? Now that we have come a fair bit from the release of BFA, with all the threat nerfs and such, are you having issues holding aggro? If I'm running a group where the DPS outgear me, I really have to optimize my rotation to keep aggro up, and I haven't done this for a long time, which brings back memories. Thanks for sticking around and supporting our channel with your marvelous view. Like and subscribe, and Santa will visit you twice this year, Marcelian Online guaranteed. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.